Welcome to Ink and Magic, a podcast where we read and discuss the writing craft, world building, and romance of paranormal and fantasy novels.
If you love books with bite, set in worlds of magic and mayhem, then you're in the right place. My name's Nikisha Shanae. I go by Ines.
And I'm Leslie. I write as Elle Penelope. And welcome to the show.
Hey, Leslie.
Hey, Inez. We're back again with book... See, I have numbering them with the original series. I have it as book 18.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter.
Just trying to give our listeners some context. But yes, with Wolf Rain in the Psy Changeling Trinity series.
Yes, which is technically season 2 of Nalini Singh's Psy Changeling World. But why we're having the numbering issues. And in this book, we get introduced to yet a new, sub-designation of Psy.
Yeah. You know, people talk about like world building problems and writing yourself into a corner.
Mhm.
And it kind of parallels with just expanding your world, because sometimes what you need to fix a problem is some new discovery or some new aspect of the magic or the powers that we haven't seen before. And it was always there, it was just hidden. That's a technique that I like to use, and it's very effective. So I like the Nalini saying it's like, yeah, we just didn't know about these people, or they were like whispered.
It was always in you. You just have to find it.
They were there. Yes, exactly. It was there all along.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I don't think that I understood Memory is our heroine.
Mm-hmm.
Memory was captured when she was 8 years old and held captive by a psychopath for 15 years. And here we go again, Nalini Singh with a psychopath. I wish she just wasn't good at it. If she wasn't good at it, I would have no issues. But she's good at this psychopath stuff. Oh, shake it off. Anyway, Memory was captured by this awful, awful person. And we learn that she is an E, but she's an empath, but with a Sigma designation.
And at first she doesn't believe she's an E. So they're Psy, she's Psy, but she broke silence when she was kidnapped. So we don't have to worry about her being silent. Her kidnapper is silent, but he's also, like we said, a psychopath, and was one of the ones that was hiding it all this time until silence lifted. And yeah, she believes her power. She thinks she calls herself a monster whisperer or something like that. She can... How would you describe her power?
See, that's the problem. I was so confused. I knew that. So for a while, because Memory did not believe that she was an empath, and when she was finally okay. Before we get to her powers, let's step back, because the way that this meet cute was like heart-wrenching. Our hero is Alexei. He's a snow dancer lieutenant.
Yes.
Okay. So he's a snow dancer lieutenant. He's out on a regular patrol when he hears and feels this cry of anguish on Snow Dancer Land, which should not be possible, because how is Snow Dancer Land getting breached?
Right. And so this person is broadcasting their emotions enough that a changeling can feel them. So he tracks her down to this underground bunker that was built hundreds of years ago in Snow Dancer territory that they've never found before. Seriously underground. Only a teleporter can access it. So he knows it's Psy. And he finds Memory and her poor little cat who has passed away and, has been her only companion.
In anguish.
Yeah, exactly. Why she's so upset. And she's malnourished, and he saves her, brings her to a secure location, a substation where she's not around the other wolves, but where she can get cleaned up and heal.
The details of her rescue are really interesting too, because Alexei. So as we're in Alexei's head, we know that he is suffering. He's a wolf and he doesn't want to be around anybody. We know that he has a curse. He believes he has a family curse, and we don't know what that is. We start to learn little by little that he's alone, like everyone in his family is gone. And we don't know why yet. I love how she lays these little secrets down that make you want to lean in, because you want to understand what's happening, what's going on. And then we have this anguished wolf barging in to this cage, basically, and he's looking around and he's asking himself questions. He's like, is there a child here? Because there's a child's clothing in the closet that looks worn and threadbare. but she's the only one there. He can smell her. He can smell like the acrid scent that they smell when there's like a Psy who is not quite right. We see that Memory doesn't even try to protect herself against him. She's just cradled around her cat. So he's making all these inferences about her while Nalini Singh just left us like, what? Wait. What about him? What about these secrets that he's harboring? And now he's investigating her secrets. And I just thought that was so interesting, craft wise.
Yeah, to create that empathy. So we care about him because we're in his head at first, and we care about her obviously because she's captive. He like the save the cat is saving her and burying her.
Literally.
Yeah, well, the cat's already gone, but they bury the cat. He's very compassionate about her. Obviously, like this cat meant a lot to her because she is distraught. She seems much more distraught about the cat than and even being rescued, like even fear of this wolf that is barged in. So yeah, there's a lot of empathy being created early on. The first few chapters is all empathy, and that's really that connects us. I mean, this is one of my probably top 5 of the series. I really liked this book, and maybe this is like we can break down, okay, how did she craft this so that we are so connected to
Mhm.
these characters?
I think the number one thing is she asks the question and doesn't give us the answer immediately. She
Mhm.
doesn't even put us in Memory's head for a while.
Yeah, it's a long time. We don't know her
Mhm.
name for a long time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I thought that confused me. I was like, "Are you a memory? Like, is this not real?" But her mother named her Psy mother named her Memory because her Psy mother said that she was her best memory. Isn't
Hmm.
that beautiful, especially for a Psy?
Yeah. And we probably have to talk about her hair because her hair is a character. Memory's hair is its own character in this novel. Uh, because she used her hair. So she's reading as Black. She's got this thick curly hair that when her captor, whose name is Renault, who basically is using her for her power. So she wasn't physically abused or anything like that, but she was
No,
abused
let
on
me
the
pause
sexual
you for just a
level.
second. The way that Nalini Singh writes this, though, she writes it in that thriller sense where she doesn't give you that detail. I figured it out that he didn't touch her or anything, but she kept using words like the worst thing. He violated her.
Hmm.
And that means different things to different people. But yeah, it becomes clear later that Renault he's shy. He's not really interested
And
in.
he's silent. Yeah,
Yeah,
so he wasn't, yeah. I got that pretty early, I guess, but because it wasn't even
explicit.
breached. Hmm?
She didn't say explicitly what he did to her.
Well, when we do know, like, that he was using her power, he was like a power vampire, like a mental parasite is what it's called at some point. So he was using her, he kidnapped her because she is this monster whisperer. She makes it easier for well, in her mind, if initially she's like, "I make it easier for monsters to be monsters," because she gives people with no empathy, her empathic power is to allow them like a few hours of empathy, and in that time Renault can get his victims to trust him and like feel the thrill of the kill, I guess. Like it wasn't detailed exactly, but I felt it was clear that he wasn't physically abusing her in any other physical way.
And maybe because I could not grasp what her power was, I didn't understand.
Okay.
I struggled until the end to understand, kinda understand what it was that she did. All I knew so, I love, Captain Jack Harkness and the, Doctor Who spinoff, Torchwood.
Hmm.
There's a whole series of Torchwood where in this series, the series broke me, where, all the children of the world, they fall under an alien's command because the aliens like the taste of the children. And that's what I kept thinking about when I was reading this book.
Like to eat them physically or their minds.
It's never 1000% explained. It just says the aliens say we like the way they taste.
Okay.
And that's all they said.
Hmm.
And that's what I got here, that Renault, and at some point, Memory gets taken to Amara,
Hmm.
Shia Elaine's twin sister, who's a psychopath, to kind of test out because she's like, Memory's like, I can't explain what I do. I can just show you. And I
Yeah.
need a bad person. And the only bad person that they air quotes trust
Right.
is Amara because they know that Ashaya has a bit of a leash on her. And you just see when Amara and Memory interact, Ashaya's face lights up. Like you could, it felt to me like Nalini Singh was writing. She just got a hit of something good.
Amara.
Amara got a
Right.
hit of something good. So
Yeah,
I think
memory.
it's like when you say vampire, but to
Mhm.
me, at some point, it was being described as Memory was a drug. And
Exactly.
so but I didn't understand, but I still couldn't understand like how feelings and empathy would benefit a sociopath.
From the interaction with Amara, what I got was, you know, a psychopath and sociopath, they're different.
Okay.
And I can't remember the distinction right now, but one
Mhm.
of them doesn't have, but the issue is they don't have empathy. They cannot feel what other people feel, and that's what Amara is. She's like, "It's fine to just dissect someone while they're alive. Like, I'm after science." So, the hit of empathy allows her to understand emotions for the first time. Amara was like, "Oh, I understand that I do love my twin sister." For
Mhm.
Ashaya, hearing that, that was amazing. So it's not changing Amara, it's just allowing her to act like a human being for the first time, to understand emotions for a few hours. And what that does to a bad psychopath, to Renault, is being able to be charming, to be able to understand emotions, what it takes to actually like reel a victim into his net. Whereas without emotions, he's just like, "Oh, come here." But now he can be warm, be charming, understand like business things too. He was using it not just for murder, but for I think for business deals, to understand, how do I manipulate this person. Amara is already very manipulative, but with the addition of emotion, everybody was like, "Hey, be really careful," because now she can really get into you. Now that she understands emotion, she can tweak her genius level intellect to manipulate your emotions and do more things. Without the understanding any emotion, there's a limit to the intellect. So that's what she was giving them, a hit of emotion that made them feel for the first time. Imagine if you've never had emotions at all.
I can't.
I know, but then you get a hit of them. You still maybe don't want them, but it opens up a new world. It's like being colorblind and then seeing colors, I imagine.
Mhm.
So that's probably why it's addictive. And it takes a psychopathic mind to be like, how do I use these emotions in order to manipulate, to get what I want, to do these things that I have these urges to do in Renault's case? That's kind of what I took from it.
I hear that. I guess, and I'm glad she didn't, but I guess like if maybe if we had been in Amara's mind, I would have understood it more. Because we were
Mm,
in Renault's mind and we just knew that he wanted her back, but we didn't get to see like what it did. And again,
yeah.
thank you for not doing that because I don't think that I could have handled it at all. But they the Psy, like they said this was so dangerous, like an Eastman was so dangerous. And it only seems dangerous to psychopaths, psychotics, whomever the bad
Right.
people are.
Well, they're
So
both bad, they're just both different.
I guess that's not what I got, which it's beside the point because I didn't really need it to understand
Yeah,
that people were after this woman and bad people could do bad things if they
right.
had her and they could basically drain her dry. I got that.
Yeah, yeah, and she requires touch, and, yeah, doing it drains her, and so, she had no shields, Renault had blown through her shield, so at
Mhm.
first, anyone who touched her could have drained her, and so, as at a certain point, she meets Sasha and builds up her shields, which was great.
Which was always great. It's always great to see Sasha.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I was saying, I hate being in the villain's POV, and I'm glad we weren't there a lot. But so we see this villain, Renault, and it's awful. Um, but then at some point, we get a second villain.
Yeah. And I think he's actually, I have to go back and reread the prologue, but my notes are just like, in the prologue, something bad has awakened. We don't know what it is. And then we're
Mhm.
getting this unknown POV where some power has awakened. At first, I was like, Asai had been asleep for hundreds of years. How are they lived to like 200, but it seemed like some power had awakened and sort of overtaken a person. And so this character was doing terrible things, but not aware of it. He'd have these
It's
blackouts.
like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or
Yeah,
Incredible Hulk.
yeah. It had taken over him. Caleb recognizes something awakens. He can't find it. The net mind and the dark mind aren't, they're having issues. So we are getting these POVs. And the first time we really see what happens is when memory has been taken to the empath commune or their campsite or wherever they live on
Mhm.
Dark River Land for training, and the arrows protect the empaths. And something has taken over the arrows and tried to make them kill the empaths. And to be able to take over the most powerful, well shielded minds in the sign net, it's this incredible amount of power that was
Mhm.
used.
Mhm. Yes. So that and then it shakes everybody because the arrows they're dedicated for all of their lives they've been trained to hurt. And now they are entrusted with the most precious beings in the Synod and they turn. However, they don't hurt the empaths. They hurt each other instead, or they hurt themselves, which was beautiful. But it's this little subplot was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was so touching because you just see these we've been with the arrows for so many books. We've watched their evolution. We've
Mhm.
watched them like claw their way out of the darkness and very gingerly like touch the light. And
Mhm.
we're watching them as Amara comes in. Like we're not novices. We've seen this community. Memory, sorry. Memory is a novice coming into the empath commune. She's not trusting herself. It's almost like she's an arrow, right?
Yeah.
But she's really an empath. So it was really beautiful watching this, with us knowing you're good. You can trust yourself in this community. Everything's going to be fine. Trust the arrows, trust the empaths, taking their love. And then this awful, awful thing happens. And as sorry, back up a second too, because we also watch Memory making friends with one of the most stoic empath, the most stoic arrows in the compound. And we watch as he is finally, letting his guard down and ready to start a relationship. And then this strike happens.
Yeah.
Strike happens. The empaths are horrified. The arrows turn on each other and some almost lose their lives. Awful, 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 awful. But when the dust clears, the arrows are like, we need to step back. We almost destroyed you guys. We understand if you don't trust us anymore. So it's almost like for me, it was almost like the arrows became memory because she didn't trust herself in this community. And she's one of the first that is like, we trust you, stay here, stay with us. This is a bad person that did the bad thing. You are not bad. And you protected us by hurting yourselves. It was just a
Mhm.
beautiful little subplot.
It was because we love the arrows so much, and yeah, we don't, Aiden had to come in, and at first Memory was like, okay, keep the arrows away from the empaths because the empaths, if they're around death or violence, they have bad reactions. They
Mhm.
were like in comatose or like they went unconscious. But then she quickly realized that the arrows are going to have that reaction. And she's trying
Yeah.
to reassure them. So it was lovely. It was lovely. And, I was like, I know she is not going to kill Yuri. Like all this buildup we've had for Yuri, that arrow, the older arrow, there's something has to happen at the ninth hour or the 11th hour to get him back because she's not that cruel to us. Some people die in the series, but I was like doing the calculations, like, is she going to kill
I
Yuri?
was thinking the same thing. Is this the beginning of some death? And I was like, I'm not here for it. Nalini saying, I'm not here for it.
Not here for it at all.
So we started talking about the arrows because we were talking about the secondary villain and their awakening.
Hmm.
I My mind was racing, like trying to figure out who or what this was, because we learn that this person is a twin.
Hmm.
And so I was like, are you really a twin? Or is this one side of you Jekyll and the other side Hyde and you're having a like is this some
Ooh.
kind of what was the Brad Pitt movie with the soap? What am I thinking? The Fight Club. Is this some
Oh,
kind of Fight Club thing that's happening?
you
That's what
went
I was
deep.
thinking. Right? I went deep. And I was like, okay, no, no, no. The twin is an actual person. Okay. Well, even before that, I was like, is this maybe when it was just a power that had awakened? I was like, is this the dark mind?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You thought that too?
Yes, the dark mind is somehow embodied and is like, yeah, yeah.
We were
And we still
wrong.
don't know what it is, but I think by the end we're clear. The dark mind and net mind have sort of started merging. They're
Mhm.
still in trouble, but it's something else. We don't know exactly what it is by the end of the book. I think it's going to be another antagonist for the next couple books, probably.
Yeah, I'm gonna circle back around to the net in just a second, just to finish out. So we did learn that this person who keeps getting taken over by this dark power, his name is Pax, and he does have a twin. And yay for they're British, and yay we get some British accents because that's my favorite. Um, I thought it was really interesting because he comes more into play more towards the middle of the book, which I thought was interesting because we see Renault. We know Renault's going to get taken down some kind of way because Alexei, who we've barely been discussing,
I know,
but
right?
Alexei, the actual hero of this book, um, he's Alexei and Memory are coming for Renault's throat. We know that. We're waiting for that scene to happen. We know Nalini Singh is going to give us that fan service. So I was really interested when she did introduce the secondary villain and put him in there. It
Mhm.
almost was like a distraction because we were so focused on what was going over here on this side of the field that
Yeah.
she like redirected us over here. And we're like, wait, what's going to happen? And I thought that was so smart because we all know Renault's going to get taken down. But here comes what we think is a even bigger bad with Pax.
At first, I thought it was Renault, but then it make it really clear that it's not because he's got telepathy or some kind of mind control powers, but he's not that strong.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it's
He's
built up, and we
strung
don't
out.
know. Right, yeah, he's going downhill really fast without memory. So his identity is kept from us until the end. We just know it's memory senses that it's a male and we're in his head, but we know his sister is Theodora, but like it's really people talk about like, okay, how do you reveal things? Like this is a great show and how you reveal things little
Mm-hmm.
by little. So we've introduced Theodora is the twin sister, this character. We know, this character's in business meetings. This character wakes up, has no idea what he's done, is checking it out. That is giving you hints that he's not evil. This is not a villain. This is someone that something is happening to.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the end, we're probably going to get a Pax book, I guess. I haven't looked ahead, but because he's like, I'm going mad. I want to fix what I've done before I go mad. I want to protect my twin sister. There's a whole backstory there about her, which is heartbreaking too, like Psy BS, because she's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be very, very weak. So yeah, I liked that. We thought he's a villain, but we learned that
He's an
he's
antagonist.
yeah, he's an antagonist.
Yeah, it doesn't mean so villain we have negative connotations towards, but antagonist is there's something in him that is against the goals of the protagonist.
Through no fault of his own. And he could very easily become a hero in another book.
And the reason that this is happening is because they introduced this notion of Project Scarab, and which we don't get a whole bunch of information about. But what I
Yeah.
took away from Project Scarab is that its silence worked for some people. It quieted a lot of the really negative tendencies. It dampened some things. So now that silence is broken, the damper has come off. And that's where we think this darkness inside of Pax is coming from, something that had gone damp under silence or
But it's
dim.
not like connected to him. It didn't seem like it was a him thing. I was very unclear about the Project Scarab connection. And I honestly forgot about it because I was like, I don't get it. There's other things in my brain. But the interesting thing about the Pax subplot was by the end, Memory, like he requires Memory's drug in order to keep it at bay. So she gives him a hit and he's like, oh, okay, I feel good. I feel like I'm in control because he's afraid that at any moment he'll go into this fugue state and forget and do something terrible. So we're seeing there's multiple ways by the end that memory is necessary, that her power is necessary. She's holding the net together. She's fixing
Right.
the broken parts. She's also holding some of these, dark people. She's got a darkness in her. She's like a dark empath, you
Yeah.
know, and they call her that at some points. So she's the only one we know about. Well, I guess Vashti, the little girl, at a certain point when Renault can't get memory back, he's like, I'm going to find someone else. So he must have some way to identify these e-sigmas because he couldn't have sent the little
Not.
girl.
I don't know that Vashti was a Sigma. She was an empath. I think Memory's mother was also an empath. That
Mhm.
he went for empaths because he. I thought that was the serial killer in him. That's the people he liked to kill were empaths. That's what
Yeah,
I got.
but at a certain point, he's like, "I'm gonna find another you to train up because you're getting old and tired." And I don't know. He happened upon Memory when he was killing her mother. He intended to kill
Mhm.
her, but he realized her power. So I wasn't sure. It wasn't clear whether he was just getting any little girl to draw memory out, or whether
Mhm.
he was really trying to find someone else to do what memory did, and how he would figure that out, I don't know.
Don't know. During this, though, we do learn from Caleb that the Signet failure is imminent. He gives it 12 months as a best guess before he finds memory and learns what she can do. And yeah, things are about to come crumbling down if they can't get this to work.
Yeah, there's a point at which Renault actually does kidnap Memory again, and we need a teleporter. Well, Caleb and Vasek are both dealing with some catastrophic failure that is killing people, so they're not. That's a really good way to make them not available for teleporting, for locking onto Memory's face, so that he has to. And we should talk about the actual love story and the mating bond.
Sure.
So up until this point, Alexei, we've had this backstory. His brother had to be killed, had to be put down. His brother was a rogue. His brother actually killed his own mate, and so his grandfather, father, brother, all rogues. Alexei
Awesome.
is, yeah, and did terrible things and had to be put down. So Alexei's like, it's in my blood. It's another one of those curses in my blood things. Someone else had that too. And it's like, I'm never gonna take a mate because of this thing. Um, and so he meets Memory, they fall for each other. He realizes, oh, this is my mate. I can block this. I'm going to block the bond from even going out for her to accept because I don't want to become a rogue and kill her. And he believes in his heart that's what's going to happen. But when she gets kidnapped and there's no available teleporters to help find
Mhm.
her, he knows that he can find her if he allows the bond to connect. And that is what he does. And he's like, well, I guess I'll just deal with it.
Yeah.
Um,
'Cause
which is
guess who
really,
told him that? Nate, who was trying to block his bond for good reasons.
yeah.
Because Tamsin was young and he was older. And then if we remember from their short
Mhm.
story, um, once he opened himself up, he could find her because she was like, I'm out of here. But
Right?
once he opened himself up, he could find her.
Yeah, yeah, the good callback there. So he's able to find Renault, and find her and get Judd to help. And meanwhile, Memory's busy saving herself, which we always love to see too. And they come together. And it's like I love those parts of the story, but there's just so much happening in this book. Like
There's
I
so
don't
much
we're kind of giving it short shrift, but it's a good love story, and the transformations that they both have into trusting themselves, into trusting each other, and trusting the mating bond. She gets to find a family in Pack,
Mhm.
and he's devoted to her, and eventually realizes, they go to a doctor who's researching rogues who tells him, oh no, you're not going to be a rogue.
Of course not. Of course not.
Yeah.
So, at some point, I don't know what point, Nalini Singh started to write thrillers, and you can really see the research that she did in this book. Like to me, there was so much psychology going on, which was
Mhm.
interesting. Like what she knows about serial killers and what she knows about victims, because I
Mm.
remember how he would Renault was controlling her because she wasn't captive the whole time. He would take her out with him and he knew she was not gonna run. But not only that, the cat that we mentioned at the beginning, the
Jitterbug.
cat became, a a a com
Manipulation tool. Yeah.
manipulation tool, but also the cat imprinted on memory. Like, the cat
Mm.
memory was one thing she wanted was for this cat to have its own life. She wanted it to run away, and the cat was like, "No, you're my person."
Yeah.
And even when it got away, it came back to her. And that was interesting using that not just because you almost see that, Renault is this awful thing, won't not letting memory go, but then we see this cat Jitterbug not letting memory go for a
Mhm.
completely different reason. And I just thought that was interesting. I thought it was interesting how a lot of the characters in this book understood captivity because we know that we remember that Hawk and the whole Snow Dancer, and as well as Dark River, Psy really did a number on them,
Yeah.
and so they understood a lot of stuff. They understood that you have to give people their own space. You have to be mindful about locking doors. You like memory was like, I don't want to owe anybody. So she was very conscious of who's giving me what because I don't want to be in debt and I don't just these small little details that become a part of character development, and that you could see that has them tied up tight, but then you could also see it unravel, because we would
Mm.
see like Alexi leaving her food and everybody like, nah, I'm not taking that cookie even though it looks really good. He gave you that food, it means something. But she's like, I don't know what this means, nobody's telling me what it means. They're all like, don't worry, girl, it means something. So little things like that. And I remember Memory didn't she had no one, she other than Jitterbug, she had no one. And so when she started to make friends, I remember when the empaths were making friends with her, but at the same time there would be times when would have to stay away from her when she was practicing her power, because they couldn't she felt wrong, and then they
Yeah.
would come back and be so sorry and be so apologetic. That was interesting to me. Like Memory with children, like there's a part where Memory is meeting Nala, and Nala, so innocent and so friendly, like reaches for her, and Memory's like, oh my god, what if I hurt this baby? Just
Yeah.
these little things, but even though we saw her wound so tight, we saw it unraveling. We saw like the things in her closet that were threadbare. And then she came out and she was like wearing sparkly clothes and sparkly shoes and colorful clothes and putting bows and things in her hair. It, just that level of detail that could be mentioned for a moment of how people heal. It was
Mm.
really her healing without Nalini Singh saying, "Oh, she's healing right now."
And yeah, I got distracted about talking about the hair, but the hair was a big part of that because
Mhm.
when she was with Renaud, he would want her to straighten her hair for these business meetings. And so her form of rebellion was to make her, kinky hair very
Mhm.
difficult to deal with and straighten so that when
Mhm.
she's rescued, it's just a snarled mess. And Alexi's like, oh, what kind of hair products do you need? Do you need some like pink oil or like the Psy version of pink oil? He gets her hair products. Then who is it? Sasha, who also has oh no, Ashaya.
Shia.
Ashaya has curly hair.
Mhm.
She's like, "Oh, let me do your hair." And so getting her hair back into a good condition is one of those markers of healing. And so everyone is like, "Oh, what products do you need? Like what kind of oils and berries can we put in your hair?" And she's very ashamed of how she looks at first, but that was her form of rebellion. And so now that she's free, she can find out that she loves color and sparkles and these sparkly shoes that Alexi gives her and just becoming herself after having been a captive and only interacting with the world through the comm screens and TV and movies, basically. Now she gets to find out who she is and live. And I just thought that, a Black woman's hair is very important and can mean a lot of things. And that because Nalini Singh writes so cross culturally,
Mhm.
and you feel like she's really doing research, that she knows people, that she's talking to people from
Mhm.
all different cultures and ethnicities and getting that detail. I remember another book, High Noon by Katie Wilde. It made me wonder if Katie Wilde was a Black woman because the hair details were so on point and specific. And I was like, huh, she either you can tell when someone knows somebody, they've talked to somebody, they haven't
Or
just
they
done.
are somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think she is Black, but I feel like she actually knows Black people or did at least talk to somebody because it just makes it richer and it just makes the character seem fuller and more alive.
So Memory's hair is looking good, her shoes are looking fly, her outfit is on point, and she is being courted, reluctantly at first, courted by Alexi, who wants her, but it's like, if I know that if I meet you, it's all over. So
Mhm.
he's like, so if the mating bond comes, I'm going to reject it. I'm going to refuse it, which is interesting because we've seen throughout all these books, whenever there's a mating bond, a mating dance that happens, it's the woman who actually will accept or reject the man. Like, good luck to you, buddy.
He says that, but he also says that he can stop it from getting that far. He can try to block it, which who knows if he actually could have done that, but yeah, it didn't end up working for him.
It did not end up
Thank
working that
goodness.
way. There was not a lot of Bao Chicka Wow going on in this book, which was okay. Because again, we had this person who, in Memory, who was so abused, so severely abused, and it was a very slow dance to intimacy, which was perfect. It was really perfect.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think she was sexually abused, but she was definitely, isolated and alone, and even when she was out in the world. I think we also did mention that, like, he was controlling her because he had her shields, like he had mental hooks in her. So she really couldn't cry out for help, even though she was walking around. And at a certain point, Alexei gets these photos of her in the world, like, well, what are you lying to me? That's early
Mhm.
on. And
Mhm.
she has a temper too. Memory is like has a temper and is not afraid of these wolves, which is great.
It is. So, I know with us being both romance readers, and we're kind of skirting around the love story just because craft-wise, this was such a dense in a good way book. Like,
Mhm.
I'm still just thinking about how she layered this all in. The love story was beautiful. It was there, but the character arcs and the character development that she did, how she laid down the conflicts and how she solved them with
Yeah.
this man being like, with this wolf being like, I can't mate you, and then the only way to save her being to accept the mating bond. That was brilliant. With
Yeah.
Memory thinking that her power was corrupt, and her learning how to control, how to get her own power, and then her being the one to start to shut Renault down with the things that she learned. Like, it made me think there is no spoon, because when Judd was teaching her, because she had like a level 1 or something TK ability, but he was like, even with a level 1, you can make that work. And how she made it work. So it was like we learn. I think I've said this before. How we learn in film school, like we were too poor to waste any film. Like, you
Right.
used every single frame, and I
Yeah.
felt like in this book there was not a word wasted. It all came
Mm.
back around.
Yeah. Yeah, and to me, the only thing was the PAX thing coming so late.
Yeah,
It's, they Memory and Alexei get together. They've accepted things. He's still a little worried he'll go rogue, but he's like, "I'll just kill myself." So we have that to resolve. But there's still a big chunk of book left, and then the Pax Marshall stuff kind of comes into relief. That felt a little pantsery to me, like, okay, this is like when
mm,
she figured that out. But I don't know that it could have come much earlier. It's just there was a lot of weight. It's kind of
yeah,
heavy at the end, but there was just so much happening and so many subplots to be closed that you have to basically, the idea is to close the subplot in the order in which you open it.
yeah.
And that sometimes means you have to have an extended ending to your book. But I agree. This was one of my favorites in the entire series, and I did love so much about it. We get to see Caleb again. We get
It
Lucas a little
obviously makes
bit.
her happy.
I know, Caleb on the page, and I love when he shows up in someone else's POV, and they're like, "There's this man, he's wearing black, and he's got this power." And you're like, "It's Caleb!" Like, I know who it is without them having to say who it is, and immediately, and he just does a Caleb thing, and then Sahara comes around, right? Like, it's lovely. It just makes me happy. So,
Yeah, I think we both highly recommend Wolf Rain. I would never call this book 3. I don't think you
yeah,
can ever call this book 3. It's
that's
book 18.
you want to have series with multiple entry points, but like this
Mm-mm,
series does not have multiple entry points.
mm-mm.
You gotta go through the whole
You
thing,
gotta go, and lucky you, you
right?
get to go back and through this again for the first time. For a minute there, I did feel like Nalini Singh kinda solved the series problem with the net being, about to collapse, but there's more story here, and she's introduced as she's broadening the world, she's bringing on new problems, which I think is, of course, it's smart.
Mhm.
I'm excited to see what's next.
I mean, in terms of solving the problem, like, okay, we find it at the end. Memory, there's the net is kind of cracking up. Like in 12 months, Caleb thinks it's going to die. She can heal parts of it, but like 1,000 people at a
Because she's a
time.
filter. That's what the Netmind showed her, that she's a
Oh,
filter.
she cleans it. Yeah, like they showed her. It was cool interacting with the net mind. But 1,000 people at a time, and then takes her 3 or 4 days to recover. There's millions of people in the sign net, so it's not really the solution. They need more of her. And they also realized that they knew they needed humans in the Psy net, but these changeling packs that are connected to Psy in the net are also helping to bolster it.
Yes.
So more humans, more changelings connected through mating bonds, through friendship bonds. So it's just like, will they be able to get that in enough time? They've had steps to the solution, but we're still a long way away from the solution in my mind.
Yeah.
We just have more tools
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
honeycomb was a tool, mating with changelings, having humans in there, all more tools. But time is running out. There's a ticking time clock, which is always nice, especially in a book or in a series.
Mhm.
And there's this new darkness and more psychopaths and
And
sociopaths,
British voices.
British voices. And I mean, shout out to Angela Daw, the
Oh my god.
audiobook narrator from book one. She's done every audiobook, all the voices, Russians, British,
I know.
American, like
Everybody.
everybody. And she's so good.
She
Kids,
is.
she does kids really well. I love it when she does like a little, Nala's voice or whatever. Yeah, she's killing it.
Totally killing it. So, speaking of killing it, Leslie and I had some everyday magic that recently happened that we had shared. Do you want to
Yeah.
tell them about it,
So we had the first inaugural Ink
Leslie?
and Magic writing retreat this past weekend as we are recording this. And it was amazing. It was fantastic. Outside of Baltimore, we had writers come in, new writers, established writers. Just really good energy, good vibe. I love that location.
Mhm.
It was a really magical.
Leslie had us in a nunnery, y'all.
I tried to warn y'all. It's
Yes.
run by some nuns. No one was in habit, so you could. I just assumed any like woman that I saw was being like dressed very, conservatively. But it's open, to the public, and people have corporate retreats there and spiritual retreats. And I've been to meditation retreats. I've done a personal retreat there. It's a great facility, and I think it was great for our purposes. And it was just beautiful and peaceful. And we got to form community and help writers. We taught workshops. We had writing time. They give you food. Yes, I had a great magical time.
It was a great time. I also just loved because I think at least I'm very used to talking to seasoned authors, and whenever I would say something that I thought was obvious, and someone's eyes would light up. It's like, oh, wait till all the other things that you're gonna learn come to you. It's welcome to the author world, and for the romance writers, everybody's writing some kind of romance in there. Welcome to Romance Landia. The water is fine. Everyone is friendly. Most of us are friendly.
Yeah, not everyone, but most of us.
Most of us are friendly. It's a beautiful place to be, and there was just a lot of lighting up going on in the conference room last weekend.
Yeah. Everyday magic, ink and magic in the real world.
In the real world that we helped to create. It was wonderful, and we will let you guys know when the next one happens, because that was so filling that we're gonna have to
Do it
we're gonna have
again.
to do it again.
Do a repeat.
Do a repeat. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Please do let us know what you think about this episode. You can leave a comment on YouTube with your thoughts. You can share it with a friend who loves romance. And please don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And check out our book schedule on our website, inkandmagic.net, so that you can read along with us. And we will see you the next time.
Bye, guys.